Welcome back to Opening Statements. I'm Julia Janae in for Julie Grant this morning, and we are turning our attention and spotlight on the case against Alec Baldwin and his Rust manslaughter case. It's now officially completely over. On Monday, the Santa Fe District Attorney's Office announced that Special Prosecutor Carrie Morrissey is withdrawing her appeal against the actor, which would have challenged the court's dismissal of criminal charges against Baldwin in the shooting death of cinematographer Halyna Hutchins on the set of Rust in 2021. You saw it here on Court TV, where Baldwin's trial abruptly ended in the middle of it after the judge dismissed the case on allegations that police and prosecutors had improperly withheld evidence from the defense. Now, we heard this week from Gloria Allred, who represents the family of Halyna Hutchins. She spoke at a press conference on Christmas Eve, calling the New Mexico Attorney General the Grinch who stole Christmas.
Although the Attorney General of New Mexico, Raul Torres, is the Grinch who stole this Christmas, we will work to assure that a future Christmas will be without this Grinch.
All of this because in that notice of withdrawal of appeal, it was indicated that the Attorney General's office stated that they would not exhaustively pursue this appeal. Now, Allred also stated that although Halyna's parents were denied justice in the criminal case, that she would continue to fight for justice in their civil lawsuit against Baldwin and Rust Productions. Let's talk about this new development in the case with criminal defense and civil attorney John Phillips and federal trial attorney Alexis Rosenberg. Alexis, let me start with you. We're in a situation where Alec Baldwin now is not going to have this over his head. What is that going to change now for the civil case? I know we're going to talk about it more with now he could sit or will sit for a civil deposition because he can't plead the Fifth anymore.
So if they would have been able to get a conviction, or if he would have taken a plea in the civil case, there would have been an inference of wrongdoing that they would have been able to present to the civil jury. So they're not going to have that. Although the rest of it doesn't much change, they still are going to have the ability to put in evidence about the alleged wrongdoing, and all of the evidence and different things that have already come forward, they're going to be able to present a great deal of that to the jury. And yes, he's not, as you stated, he's not going to be able to plead the Fifth because we do not have the situation of the pending criminal charges against him at this time.
And John Phillips, we haven't heard any statement from Alec Baldwin. He's been pretty quiet since those criminal charges, because really everything he was saying was getting put in front of the media and going viral. He did, I noticed, pen on his Twitter X account the New York Times article stating that this appeal is being withdrawn. So a silent comment on what's happening against him. But what do you think is going to happen now? We're going to see him talk, or is the civil case still another cloud that is over him?
Justice is spelled one way, but it's defined many different ways. So when you don't have the criminal justice system, prosecuting and trying to get criminal justice, there's the fallback civil justice system. And let me tell you, it's a little easier. It's based upon reason. It's based upon a feather's weight tilting the scales. So, in those cases, and there's one more type of justice, the court of public opinion, which is sometimes just as important. But the depositions you're going to see of Alec Baldwin, the determination of were his actions reasonable, way easier to prove than the criminal reasonable beyond a reasonable doubt, should have, shouldn't have. It's going to be a long couple of years for Mr. Baldwin and those that were around this production.
Let's take a look back at what Gloria Allred had to say, really condemning the Attorney General's office for not supporting Carrie Morrissey in her fight to continue to try and get these charges levied against Baldwin.
First, Judge Marlo Summer took the criminal case away from the jury, depriving them of the ability to decide the criminal case against Alec Baldwin, in which he was charged with involuntary manslaughter. Then the New Mexico Attorney General Raul Torres, decided that he would not allow the justices of the New Mexico's appellate court to decide if the trial judge's decision was correct or if the trial court had wrongfully decided the case, and if, as a result, there should be a new trial. Clearly, the rights of Alec Baldwin were protected, but the due process rights of the victims, Halyna Hutchins and her parents and her sister, were violated.
Yeah, we also understand from that same press conference that Gloria Allred said her sister and family say that he never apologized and should be held responsible. But Alexis, John's analysis is that it's going to be so much easier in civil court versus criminal court. Do you think this is actually a benefit to the family in some weird way, that they can now get on with the civil case because there was a motion for a stay at this point in the civil case because of the criminal charges?
Easier. The standard is much lower. But, you know, there's a lot of confusion about this related to the civil case, because if you remember, Alec Baldwin himself settled with the son and with the husband. And this is now the father and the sister. And in New Mexico in civil court, they have this rule that they can't actually personally bring it, that they have to bring it on behalf of the estate and have to be appointed basically as the representative of the estate. So that is confusing, and it's now recently come out that there may be some issues with the settlement with Alec Baldwin and that he had with the husband and the son, and that the other producers made, as well as whether a payment was made pursuant to that agreement.
So Carrie Morrissey, I want to go back to her, the special prosecutor, because she was really a lone wolf in all of this. The judge didn't agree with her. Her own co-counsel, special counsel, Erlinda Johnson, didn't agree with her. And now the Attorney General's office even backing off of this fight that she was persistent in pursuing. Let's take a listen back to her when she called herself against all advice to the stand.
Ammunition that is in the state of Arizona that has never left Arizona did not strike me that it had significant evidentiary value. Then, and I will say, I believe I actually saw a photo of it. At that point in time, I was able to look at the ammunition myself, and it was visibly dissimilar than the rounds from the set of Rust.
Gloria Allred praised Morrissey, said she's been unfairly attacked in all of this. John Phillips, your thoughts on Special Prosecutor Morrissey?
Look, I've met Gloria Allred at a party years ago that Bob Shapiro threw. She is one of the most media-savvy, no-nonsense lawyers that's ever existed, right? So, you know, when you're media-savvy, sometimes you say things for the cameras. And certainly, I think here she, you know, has to support a side, right? I'm not there, right? I don't necessarily agree here, but you know what we're gonna wind up dealing with, and you know my co-counsel from Florida pointed it out, is what are we even doing with this lawsuit? You know, in Florida, it's very clear. It's all lawsuits must come from a personal representative. And, you know, it seems like there was some panic in how to handle this civil lawsuit in the beginning. And now Gloria Allred seems to be kind of doubling down or using, you know, some pomp and circumstance to say, don't look over there, look over here.
Yeah, Alexis, just real quick before we have to go to break, it again does seem strange that the civil case isn't the thing that they are most focused on, because what do you think the outcome would have been if a jury did get this case and they found him not guilty? How would that have impacted the civil case?
It would have had a huge impact on the civil case. I think at this point, as brought up, she just wants the family to feel heard.
Yeah, and the family does not approve, and the prosecutors were open about that. They did not agree with this withdrawal of the appeal. Alexis Rosenberg, John Phillips, thank you so much for your analysis for this topic.